So why are so many doctors being dropped from networks or hospitals being dropped from networks? We're seeing this more and more so, especially on the Medicare side of things, where we're seeing health insurance companies saying, well, hey, no, we're no longer going to be accepting this hospital system in our network. We're not going to be accepting this doctor group in our network. And that's becoming more and more prevalent, especially in the last 2 to 3 years. And we're going to see more of that coming up as well, simply because at the end of the day, it's all about cost. So what happens is the theory of networks is essentially doctors agree to take less, or doctors or hospitals agree to take less in order for insurance companies to essentially give them preferential treatment and to send more patients to them, essentially a volume-based discount. That's how it all started. But what it's becoming is that all the doctors and hospitals are in some type of network for the most part, and if everybody's in a network, then there's really no competitive advantage, which means that the insurance companies have to favor certain groups over others. And usually it's the groups that are willing to take a bigger discount in order to receive more patients. And we're getting to this tipping point where the cost of providing care, because of the cost of administration of keeping up all these systems, dealing with the prior authorizations, the pre-approvals and all that stuff, it's gotten to the point where it's so expensive that doctors need to make more money, otherwise they can't stay afloat. Hospitals need to make more money, they can't stay afloat. And the insurance companies also need to make more money because, again, their systems are so complicated. Some of them are making a lot of money, but not as much money as you think. And what's happening is that the insurance companies now have to pare down the doctors that they work with and say, hey, look, we're going to give preferential treatment to these groups that will give us a lower cost, and cut out doctors that will not give us a lower cost. And what's happening is in certain states, the doctors, especially in states where you have one or two major systems, all the doctors basically have consolidated into one or two systems. And because of that, it's a chicken or the egg, where it's like if you want to do business in our state, you have to work with these groups, and if you need to work with these groups, then they're going to jack up the price. And because of that, a lot of insurance companies have either decided to pull out of certain states, certain territories, and therefore there's less competition. Less competition means that people that are doing business in that state can charge whatever they want, up to a certain amount. That's why we're seeing 20-30% increases on premiums being proposed, because there simply are not that many insurance companies that are willing to do business in a particular state, and there aren't many hospital systems in that state, so they can charge whatever they want. And who gets hurt is the end consumer. And also, people don't want to, hospital administrators, oftentimes, the cost of running a hospital, running a doctor's office, costs a lot of money. And we've seen a 10x growth in the amount of hospital and provider administrators out there, and not so much increases in the number of providers, which means that now it's costing more money to administer care than it is to actually deliver the actual care. And because of that, that's another big reason why things are going up in cost. And so we do need to fix this problem. And the tough issue is that people are going to lose jobs. A lot of times what we're going to see is hospital administration is going to get cut in order to reduce those costs, because there's simply not enough providers to keep up with demand, which means that you're not going to get rid of people that are actually doing the frontline work that need to deliver that particular service. But what you do need to do is reduce the cost of delivering that service. Just like if you look at retail, if you look at what Amazon has done with retail, if you look at what Walmart has done with retail, it's always, how do we become more efficient? How do we reduce the delivery of the particular good or service in order to pass on the savings onto the consumer? And that's what needs to happen in healthcare. Healthcare has gone the opposite way. Imagine if Amazon decided, hey, look, we're going to make things a little bit more complex. We're going to maybe slow down delivery a little bit more, add a couple of more layers of management, and increase the cost of your goods by 20-30%. Nobody's going to stand for that. But somehow in healthcare, that's what we stand for. So that's why people are getting their doctors and hospitals dropped, because insurance companies are getting to the point where they also need to cut costs, and the cost of healthcare has simply gotten too expensive. And what we can do as consumers in the short term is really shop around, especially open enrollment as it comes up. Really make sure whether or not your doctors and hospitals are going to be in whichever network that you choose. If you do go with one of these, Medicare Advantage plans or HMO plans where you have networks, And then for those of you who have a more flexible system, still double check whether the hospital system or your providers are participating, let's say in original Medicare or even in your PPO plan, because what happens is that a lot of times these notices are not being sent out as effectively as they need to be to patients that are affected. And then we've had folks go to the doctor and their doctor say, hey, look, we no longer take your insurance. You got to wait till next year. And if they need something urgent, then they're really up a creek without a paddle. And what we're seeing also is that more and more doctors are willing to take cash. So especially in the primary care space, this is a big trend that we keep on talking about, which is primary care doctors a lot of them are moving into that direct primary care model where instead of charging insurance, they charge a subscription fee, usually somewhere around $80 to $150 per person per month. And you'll be able to get access to your primary care doctor anytime you want without additional copays. I do think that's a great model because I think primary care can solve a lot of problems that people need without having to refer them out to specialists. And we'll go into an example of how that's going to reduce the amount of healthcare that's required. But what we're seeing is that you're going to see more network disruptions, especially for folks that are on Medicare Advantage or HMO plans. They need to be really careful about making sure that the doctors that they prefer to see are going to be in network for next year. Otherwise, you're going to run into a lot of issues when you go to the doctors of things not being covered or the doctor not being able to see you due to your insurance.